Boom! Welcome into SportsBIT. Betting Insight today, Pauly and Teddy. Thursday, March 2nd. Big game breakdown. The Warriors now without Durant in Chicago. They continue this long road trip. Also, OKC in Portland. And part 2, deep dive. Who has what it takes to win the big dance? We'll get to that and eliminate all these teams and give you a pick. Coming up, bad beats, bad bets, bad for the books. A bad bet, but a great result if you watch the game. But Michigan, they were +2. They went off the favorite at Northwestern. And if you saw the highlights, it's tied with a second left. A full court pass under their own basket. Northwestern lays it in. With the win, they're going to be dancing. And it's their first winning record in conference since 1968.
They were due, Pauly. They were due. And, of course, a 3-point line move in favor of the Wolverines. Michigan bettors really hoping for overtime. But, I mean, what a well-designed play. You know, the full court pass, the lay-in at the buzzer. That's good design. That's good execution. And they're going to get the payoff. I mean, last night's win puts Northwestern over the hump. They're in the big dance. It's been since 1968 since they had a winning record in the Big Ten. It's been even longer than that, namely forever, since they've been to the big dance. Congratulations, Wildcats. Bad bet if you were on the Wolverines.
These are all bad bets. The Atlanta Hawks bet up from 5 to 6. They need an 11-2 run in the last 90 seconds to get the W against the Mavs.
Yeah, I mean, Atlanta never led by more than 6 in the fourth quarter. There was a lot of Hawks money in that ball game. And, of course, with the 5-point final margin, say, oh, is that a bad beat? No, it was a bad bet. They never led by more than the point spread in that fourth quarter. And all the Hawks money stays with the bookies.
Oh, boy, this team's in trouble. The Xavier loses again. They were bet up to 3-point home favorites against Marquette. Routed at home. They've lost 6 in a row. And who was betting the Magic at home?
I don't know. Someone was actually betting the Magic as home favorites. I mean, I do home court edge for each team individually in the NBA, like I do in most sports. And I think like I do in every sport. But I consider the Magic to have the smallest home court edge in the NBA. My numbers show them with 8 point spread covers in 30 games at the Amway Center. You know, Magic were 1.5 at the Open. They were bet as high as 2.5 against the Knicks. And the Knicks won that game wire to wire. Laying points with Orlando, that was a bad bet.
Yeah, here's another one. Michigan State, they took money on the road. They only have 2 road wins the entire season. Look at this. Illinois is on fire.
Yeah, I mean, the Illini led pretty much wire to wire in that game. It was a sweat in the final minute, and the Illini needed to hit some free throws. They missed the first and hit the second to finally win by 3. Illinois did not do a good job of closing this game out, but Michigan State taking money. They haven't been a good road team all year, and they weren't last night. Pauly, bad bet on the Spartans.
How about bad for the books? Miami bet up from 8.5 to 9.5. They drilled the 76ers, who earlier in the day shut down Embiid for the season.
Yeah, I mean, look at the picture. You know, there's Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons sitting together, 2 highest lottery picks that you can get, and there they are in street clothes. 0 minutes for the season of playing time together. It's going to be hard for the books to price the 76ers the rest of the way. I can tell you that right now. They've had difficulty pricing the single best point spread team in the NBA. Last night, a no-show for Philly. There's been money coming in against Philly consistently. Miami last night finally cashed one of those bets. All the Heat money comes through in relatively easy fashion.
Wizards Raptors under 211 down to 208. The bettors knew the Wizards were worn down after the win against Golden State, and the offense has not been the same in Toronto without Lowry.
Yeah, sure, and a ton of money on the under in there. As you mentioned, 211 down to 208, and that under really never in doubt a wire-to-wire winner.
And they were betting the Pelicans without Cousins. They were bet up from 1 to 3 at home against the Pistons. They get the win. ESPN stats and info, our NBA record. The Pistons were 3 of 17 from the free throw line, the worst in NBA history.
Yeah, when you hit 18% from the charity stripe, that's the worst in NBA history with a minimum of 10 attempts. But when you hit 18% from the free throw line, it's hard to win. It's hard to cover. and the amazing thing was that Boogie was out, and they were still betting the Pelicans. Maybe they were betting the Pelicans because Boogie was out. And, of course, the Pistons on the second night of back-to-backs off an overtime, dig down deep and rally from behind overtime win the previous night. They didn't bring their A game. New Orleans got the money. That was bad for the house.
Yeah, and one more. This is a great game on ESPN. Boston went off the favorite at home against Cleveland, laying 2. Cleveland actually had the lead with less than a minute left, but Isaiah went to work, and the Celtics get a big win. They finally beat the Cavs.
Yeah, and again, another good tweet from ESPN Stats and Info. Boston 14-6 straight up in games decided by 5 points or less this season. That 14 wins, the most wins by 5 or less in the NBA. And look, it was all Boston money in that game. The Celtics were the underdogs at the open, +1. They closed as 2-point chalk. And Jay Crowder putting the icing on the cake with those last 2 free throws get the Celtics better the money and give the bookmakers heartburn as they went to bed last night. Not a good result for the house.
All right, let's start with the other big news that came down yesterday. Kevin Durant, he's out at least a month, then he'll be reevaluated. Maybe he's out 4 to 6. Maybe he doesn't come back till the second round of the playoffs. At the Westgate here in Vegas, they moved the Golden State odds to win the title, -220 down to 160, and the Golden State against the field to win it all, -$2, the field +175. They took that off the board.
Wait, let me get that straight. The odds for Golden State to win the title went, the Golden State is -220 to win the title?
Yeah, before Durant got hurt, yeah.
Over everybody? Golden State versus the field, is -220? That's a bad number. The Warriors are pretty good, though. But even now, at -160, I mean, you want to talk about value. I ain't betting any team at -160 to win the NBA final, win the NBA title in February or March. Not going to happen. And when you talk about the absence of Kevin Durant, from a power rating standpoint, just look at the point spread tonight. The books and the markets have not made a huge adjustment downward on Golden State. In theory, they're the type of team that should be able to withstand a significant injury to anyone, at least except for Steph Curry.
All right, how about another tweet? David Purdom, ESPN. What is going on with the NC2A? How about what happened with the Richmond baseball team?
This is insane. This is from an article from David Purdom. And every once in a while I get a good chance to rail on the NCAA, which is the most corrupt organization that tries to look all pretty that there is in sports. It's a bunch of administrators taking advantage of many of our poorest citizens so that they can get fat and happy and rich and live off TV deals. Whatever. So be it. So we had 5 players on the Richmond University baseball team. They have now been ruled ineligible by the NCAA because of the enormous crime. They were involved in a fantasy football league. A freaking fantasy football league. Okay? Now, the NCAA considers fantasy sports contests with an entry fee to be a form of sports wagering and therefore off limits to student athletes regardless of sports. Now, in the state of Virginia, fantasy sports are explicitly legal and they're regulated by the state. Okay? But, so they're in a state, they're doing it illegal. It's fantasy football. These are baseball players. And not only these are secondary violations, they're going to be ineligible for competition until the NCAA completes the reinstatement process. Pauly, this is the epitome of bullshit. Okay? It really is. The NCAA is a horrible organization. And everyone says, oh, look, it's amateur athletics. This is the type of thing they do. They just make it difficult in a situation where it really shouldn't be that difficult. Playing fantasy football is not hardcore gambling. Reinstate these kids yesterday. There, that's my rant.
Rest assured that investigation will take forever, too, to reinstate them. My personal favorite is still when Rick Majerus was the head coach at Utah, and a player on his team, I think his mom died, and he took him out for lunch, and sorry, violation, you can't buy him a hamburger. Incredible rules. Oh, up next, big game breakdown. Warriors and the Bulls and OKC and the Blazers on SportsBIT. Betting Insight today on SBRPicks.com.
Go to SBROdds.com. Browse, compare, and shop live odds available at top online sportsbooks.
Back on SportsBIT, Betting Insight today. Follow us on Twitter at Pauly Howard at Teddy_covers. Big game breakdown is always live odds. SportsBookReview.com. Warriors continue the road trip in Chicago. They are 219 the total. Kerr, we talked about this road trip and his comments. Now you don't have Durant. How's he going to manage the second half as you get into the playoffs? And how, they like to get the 1 seed. They got the Spurs breathing down there next for the 1 seed too. So everything's out the window in terms of rest and how he treats this. And you get, first things first, you got to get Curry back on track. He's 2 of 20 in his last 2 games from 3. What does he do with Iguodala? Does he go in the starting lineup? And how does he treat this rest of this long road trip, Teddy?
Well, I mean, this is a one-game situation for Golden State tonight. They get Friday and Saturday off before playing at New York on Sunday. So they're going to have some practice time in between to tweak. I don't think he goes to Iguodala because Iguodala's been so comfortable coming off the bench. But frankly, none of us know what Steve Kerr is going to do. But all the stuff like that the Warriors are going to have to manage and coast to the playoffs and it's out the window, I'm not buying that. And neither are the markets. Look, I made a 2-point adjustment in my power rating with Kevin Durant out. And I know that seems small. With a 2-point adjustment, my number came Golden State -6. You know what I mean? So the markets aren't exactly saying the Warriors are going to stink right now because they lost KD. And certainly when you're talking about the situation for Kevin Durant, who looking like he's going to be out, months potentially, it's an issue for the playoffs. For the regular season, this team doesn't care about home court advantage. They already have a big enough lead. I don't think anyone in the West is catching them. And even if they were the 2 seed, it's not going to kill Golden State to be the 2 seed. So I don't look at Kerr and saying, all right, we got to really freak out about this. No. I think Golden State stays calm in this situation.
No depth, though. They had that depth last year. They don't have it this year as they lost some key players off the bench. Now, the Bulls, 2 days off before hosting Denver on Tuesday, they got their asses kicked, 125-107. Butler didn't get it done. 35 minutes, they were -20 with him on the floor, 3 of 13 from the field, 8 points and 4 rebounds. Hoiberg, I don't know what it was. He just didn't get in the flow or rhythm. We ran a lot of actions that we run for Jimmy that he normally converts on. Did he lose his fire after not being traded to a contender? Post break, only 16 points per game, Teddy, and he's shooting 33%?
Yeah, I mean, the comments from Jimmy Butler himself, he's like, hey, I've been a little out of rhythm. This isn't going to go on forever. But the thing that I wonder about Chicago is not whether Jimmy Butler is going to be okay. I think Jimmy Butler will be fine. Okay, this is a Bulls team that got clocked by Denver. They had to go to overtime at home, lucky to beat Phoenix. And they only won at Cleveland because the Cavs had no LeBron. So you wonder, well, what's changed for the Bulls? Taj Gibson's changed. One of the glue guys. He played hard every game. He got the other players in the team to play hard every game. He brought it on the defensive end. And Taj Gibson's no star. He's no guy who's ever going to move the needle on a point spread or anything like that. But when it comes to on-floor chemistry and veteran leaders that other guys look up to, Taj Gibson was that guy. And now we're talking about a team that is number 26 in the NBA in defense since the All-Star break, despite that relatively weak schedule.
Yep, and here's Hoiberg, quote, we've got to find a way to get back to guarding. Starts with transition with our team. We've gotten exposed against several teams. You have to get back, low to the ball, and be able to close out to the shooters. It's also an individual battle that you've got to take some pride and go out and win. We didn't win enough of those Tuesday night. They were going around us. When we did come and help, they would spray it out to the shooter or get it to somebody rolling to the rim and exposed us, end quote. I don't like those comments now that you're going against the Warriors.
And you're going against a hungry Warriors team coming off a loss. Let's not forget how good Golden State has been given the opportunity following a poor performance. And again, the Warriors didn't play well at Washington. They were still had a chance to win that game in the last couple of minutes. They just didn't hit shots. And we've seen Golden State enough to know they can hit shots, especially against teams like Chicago that aren't playing a whole lot of defense.
We both hated that trade they made, and here's where the guys go, to OKC. Game number 2, live odds, sportsbookreview.com. Portland at home against OKC, 1.5, 220.5 the total. Thunder are getting interesting now. Canner back, the McDermott and Gibson trade. Oladipo could be back tonight. Filling in for Oladipo could turn the corner as well. And it was different flow. They were dead last in the NBA in three-point percentage before playing Utah. They made their first 12 and went 15-22. Westbrook loves having all these options now, Teddy.
Yeah, quote, they're making my job a lot easier. They put teams in a tough spot because they have to help when we get great shooters around the perimeter. It's tough for teams. And Oladipo, of course, was replaced by Alex Abrines, who's now all of a sudden scoring 14 points a game since the All-Star break and going 11 of 21 from three-point range during that span. So all of a sudden a team that lacked depth. And you remember, their scheduling stretch, like that of the Rockets before the All-Star break, was brutal, just brutal, gassed completely. Now, they're one of the deepest teams in the league. They've got an elite-level point guard. They're loaded in the paint, and they're surrounded with perimeter shooters. Yeah, this is a squad that's number 2 in the NBA in rebounding. They're number 9 in defense. They're better in both of those categories then Houston, Cleveland, Toronto, Boston, the Clippers, the Wizards. So some pretty darn good teams are behind the Thunder in key statistical categories. And OKC, there's a lot to like about the Thunder right now. There really is.
I can't say the same for the Blazers. Last home win, January 31st. 0-3 straight up in ATS in February. It's their first home game since February 3rd. Last year, Lillard and McCollum enough to get them in the playoffs where they made some noise. But not this time. You got to play some defense. And look at this graphic. 2016, they were 20th in defense and 10th in rebounding. This year, they're 26th and 21st.
Yeah, and, we're talking about a team, again, they haven't played at home since February 13th, so it's been about 3 weeks. It hasn't been the whole month of February they were on the highway, but it's been a while for a home game, and it's been even longer for a home win. Another squad where we think, Portland's got this great home court edge. You look at their point spread results at home this season, even their straight-up results, and all of a sudden, the Rose Garden doesn't smell quite so pretty. And of course, it's not just the issue with defense and rebounding for this season. This is a squad with real salary cap problems. Remember, they gave $50 million to Lillard and McCollum, okay, which gives you an elite backcourt, no question. But we all know what's been lacking for the Blazers this season. It's been the front court, and given the money they have to their all-star caliber guards, that front court may well be a weakness for some time to come.
Yeah, they signed Azili. He never played. How about that? They could have used him with those rebounds as well. Up next, the deep dive. Who has what it takes to win the big dance? Part 2. We'll eliminate teams and give out a pick. We'll narrow it down on SportsBIT. Betting Insight today on SBRPicks.com.
Research before you bet. Be sure to check out SBR Picks for the best game predictions, breakdowns, and much, much more.
Wrapping it up on SportsBIT, time for the deep dive, part 2. Yesterday, part 1, we took a basic look at the profile of the past 16 champs in March Madness. From that profile, we were able to make a short list of potential champs looking at the 17 teams. Carolina, Duke, Louisville, Notre Dame, Florida State, Kansas, West Virginia, Baylor, Nova, Butler, Purdue, Whiskey, Oregon, Arizona, UCLA, Kentucky, and Florida. The next step in the elimination process is to look at the records. This makes sense. How you don't play the tournament on your home floor. How'd you do away from home, Teddy?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you can. What we're trying to do now is take a look at those 17 teams and knocking them off the bat. So I want a team that is above 500 on the highway, at least 500 on the highway. And you know what? We can bounce a pair of ACC teams right from the get-go. Duke and Florida State, both sub-500 squads, straight up on the highway. Bang! Blue Devils, Seminoles. You're gone.
Yep. Let's throw Wisconsin out, too, because they're 500. And I'm not, I don't think they have issues as well. They were once in the top 5. Now the wheels have come off. Next, we move on to defense. Look at this. All of a sudden, UCLA, they played 7 straight games where they held their opponents under 80 points.
Yeah, and what I like to look for defense, defensive field goal percentage allowed. It's a very basic stat, and yet it's pretty good at helping us eliminate teams. Louisville, Baylor, Oregon, all elite in this category, top 25. UCLA, as you mentioned, a team that we've ripped their defense, they're 73. My cutoff is outside the top 100. So we have West Virginia ranked 105th, Notre Dame 114th, Kentucky 115th, Butler, the worst of the bunch, 198th. Bye-bye. Let's eliminate those 4 right here.
Oh, wow. A team that swept Nova and has 6 wins against ranked opponents. All right. They're out. Next, we got a tough play inside, down low in the interior. How about rebounding?
Yeah, I mean, rebounding margin, plain and simple. The good teams win this battle. Look, North Carolina's number 1. You have Baylor also in the top 10. Purdue's 13. Louisville's 19. Zona's 23. UCLA, Nova, Kansas in the top 40. Oregon, 66. That's still good enough. Who do we lose? We lose Florida. They're number 108 in rebounding margin. That's too high. That, by the way, is the end of the SEC. Bye-bye, SEC.
Okay. Now you want NBA players and you want first-round talent. Who has it?
Yeah, and this is really something that you want to look at pretty closely because the elite players, the Final Four players, these are the guys that you want to be betting on. You have Kansas. And again, these aren't necessarily all first-rounders. These are guys who are projected to get drafted come next spring, or come this summer, I should say. So you have Kansas, what do they have? Josh Jackson, Frank Mason, Devontae Grahams. They're all potential first-rounders. UCLA is Lonzo Ball and TJ Leaf and Bryce Alford. Arizona's well, how do you pronounce his name? You did it so well the other day. Markkanen, right? Alonzo Triers and Kobe Simmons. Yeah. Baylor's got Jonathan Motley, and North Carolina's got Justin Jackson and Joel Berry and Tony Bradley. Nova's got Josh Hart and Michael Bridges. Purdue's got Caleb Swanigan. Oregon, Dylan Brooks and Jordan Bell. Louisville, well, their top prospects, Donovan Mitchell, he might not get drafted. We got to bounce Louisville right here. And Wisconsin with Ethan Happ, I think we eliminated them earlier. I think we eliminated them 3 times already. But we can certainly eliminate Louisville and Wisconsin right here, teams that don't have the requisite level of NBA caliber talent to win it all.
Need great point guard play. For that, we're going to use assist to turnover ratio.
Yeah, and, I was a little bit disappointed. I thought we would get more. Usually I eliminate a bunch of teams here, and I couldn't. North Carolina, I thought about eliminating North Carolina. Barry's less than 2-1, but he's a veteran leader. Kansas is Frank Mason and Devontae Graham. They have no problems. Nova has no problems with Jalen Brunson. Purdue's fine with Dakota Mathias and P.J. Thompson. Arizona's okay with Parker Jackson Cartwright. But, there's the 2 guys I'm not sold on the comp day for Baylor, and the stats back me up. And it's a similar story with the duo with Dylan Ennis and Peyton Pritchard for Oregon. Those 2 teams, Baylor and Oregon, see ya. We got to eliminate 16 of these 17 teams. We're making progress, Pauly.
All right, and now who can win a close game? Got to have good free throw shooting.
Yeah, no question. And this is a huge stat. And, just ask any Memphis Tigers fan how important free throw shooting is at the end of a national championship game. Nova, number 2 in the country in free throw shooting. Zona's 15, Purdue 17. UCLA's at 74%. They're in the top 50. North Carolina, under 70%. And Kansas, the worst of the remaining bunch. We're talking about 2 blue blood programs. Bye-bye. See you next year. Kansas, North Carolina, bounced right here.
So now we have a Final Four. Arizona 13-1, UCLA 8-1, Nova 10-1, and Purdue 30-1. Who's the pick?
Well, yeah. This is is it play of the day time? Let's give them a minute, because really, we have 4 live teams here: Arizona, UCLA, Villanova, Purdue. Purdue's a longer shot of the bunch, but note Arizona, UCLA, and honestly, Oregon got eliminated by the slimmest of the slim. So, you know what I'm thinking about with the Pac-12? I want the Pac-12 over the number of wins in the tournament. I don't know what they're going to be lined at. I don't know what the matchups are going to be. But as soon as that number comes out, I think the Ducks, the Bruins, and the Wildcats are all legit Final Four contenders. And I know that West Coast basketball tends to get overlooked a little bit in other parts of the country. And I believe in those 3 Pac-12 teams. So I think the best bet when we talk about futures for the tournament is going to be bet the Pac-12 team, total wins over. But we don't have a number for that yet. We don't have any matchups for that yet, and we can't give that out yet. So we got to give a pick of the Final Four. So let's do it. What do you think?
Villanova to win the title. 10-1 at Westgate, 9-1 at 5 Dimes. It's been you got to go back to Florida, the last team to repeat. How about that?
But the whole thing with Villanova, and the reason that I chose Nova as the team of the 4 to go with, 1, the price is right. 2, when you have a last year's defending champ that brings just about everybody back in the Final Four, I'm going to pick them to win it. Because they've been there and they've done it, and I know that these kids are capable of doing it. We've seen it with our own eyes. And they remind me in some sense, maybe not quite as talented as the 06-07 Gators, but I'm not going to sell this Nova team short. So that's the play of the day. Nova to win the NCAA title. Again, you can find them 9-1 or 10-1. They're my best bet.
Yeah, all right, there it is. And today's Thursday, 8 o'clock Pacific, the Google Hangout. We do it every Thursday. Be a part of that. We tweet it out if you can't be a part of it as well, but come on in, any questions you want, and it's March, so let's rock and roll. And the first bids go out this weekend as well. And now it really becomes fun starting next week, Teddy. Bids go out every night. The big boys start Wednesday with their conferences, their conference tournaments, and more bids Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and then we get going with the first 4 into the madness after Selection Sunday. Going to be a lot of fun the next couple months.
No question. And if there's ever a week to watch sports, but next week's the week. conference tournaments. We're going to give you so much info on those conference tournaments. We're going to give you strategies to beat them. We're going to give you picks in the games. Check it out, SportsBIT, every day right here on SBRforum.com.